Cutting-edge guests, awesome, uncensored, jaw-dropping information, plus funny memes, good deeds, and loads of laughter. Kind of have it all. Ladies and gentlemen, if your soul is awake, then welcome, because you're in the right place. Welcome back to Where We Go On, We Go All Weekly. You divine lions and lionesses, join us in the live stream because you are now in officially the age of winning. Just look at the comms, look at the incredible information which has just been posted, the Epstein Transparency Act. We have to laugh at that. They totally got the demon rats to care about it and then out themselves. We also have $1 trillion Saudi Arabia, the designation of Muslim Brotherhood, a domestic foreign terrorist organization, you name it, going after them, the deep state, ICE being deployed to New York because we have that amazing Tom Homan, border czar, central casting, out there on Fox News and CNN, sharing the love about what they're gonna do way more. Oh, and by the way, look at that photo. That is the First Lady of the United States sitting there with President Donald John Trump and Elon Musk. Wow, look at them sharing a meal together last night at the state dinner for the Prince of Saudi Arabia. King Trump is winning. We'll see you in the live chat soon. Myself, Brad Wozny, and Rattletrap 1776, Derek Johnson. Well, and here we are, everybody. Brad Wozny, welcome back to the Sovereign Soul Show, here with my good buddy, Derek Johnson, double fisting down in Alabama. This is how he was born and raised and taught. It's beginning to look a lot like DJ Derek. I'm just having fun with it. He's backstage. I'm going to bring him in right now. Having a good old time with him. I love that photo, man. That's so good to see. I'll put you side by side here. That's so great. That's so great. And it is from your post just the other day. You reposted it yourself, which is awesome. Beginning to look a lot like I'm going to need a drink. Freaking right. Awesome. Welcome back, man.
Well, it's a perfect, even if I did solo write it, I'm like, it's a perfect song for, it just talks about people who talk about politics at the, Thanksgiving or Christmas. And, it's like I sit there and bite my tongue and don't say things I have before in the past, all the years. And, and it says if that Ann of mine, when she starts to whine, so-and-so should be president, it's beginning to look a lot like I'm going to need another drink. I'm doing everything I can to keep it together. Just keep it in the Christmas cheer. Naughty or nice, pour me something on ice. Or I might just feel what I think is beginning to look a lot like I'm going to need another drink. So, yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. And you got the shirt to match. I like that. It's just awesome. Putting your links in the chat here right now, everybody. And once again, as a reminder, everything's in the description right below YouTube, Rumble, or if you're listening to this later on the podcast. So Rattletrap1776.com. That's exactly where you can go. Get the music, the books, and get in touch with the legend, especially if you're in the U.S. He'll mail his book straight out to you, and he's signing it. We were just talking pre-chat, pre-show, and he's got to bump up the orders because there's a lot more orders coming in. So good for you, man. I'm really glad to hear that. Congratulations.
Well, it's just it's cool to see so many people caring again about civil authority, civil rights, civil roles and duties. People have heard the civil rights term for so long, but they don't even realize that they haven't exercised there. So it's pretty cool to have these books that teach people every different facet of what you're just supposed to know as an American. But anyway, kudos to all those that do listen to you and I. We have so many from all over the world and I tell this to Americans, this is not a knock on all the followers elsewhere. That's a kudos to you. But for Americans, flip it around in another kind of way. More people outside the United States of America know more about America, the United States of America, origin, history, and the three branches of government, how everything's supposed to function, and willing to fight more for it than some Americans. So anyway, I make no bones about it. If there was a way to swap them out, I would.
Yeah.
So you act like it. an American is buying into our ideology. It has, it holds a little weight when you're born here like me, but someone like here born like me and my family dates back to Native American and dates back to the Revolution. And when I say something like that, then it should hold a little bit more weight, that I would swap someone out that don't care, don't want to know, with someone who cares and wants to know and buy into our ideology and pull their weight all day long. So Americans should take that as a challenge, whatever you want to call it, but it ain't going to happen, but it should.
Amen to that. Yeah, we were on the text thread last night. I was sending out the photos of Jake Lang live streaming from Dearborn, Michigan. And then he was up at the little city council meeting, just sending it, man. And that boy, he has got the armor of God on. Plus, he's actually wearing body armor as he's doing that too. And he is literally telling it like it is. We've got a funny video here for everybody to have a laugh at, because from our last show in 7 days, and why I placed this title, The Age of Winning. If you cannot see 7 days ago that there's massive winning, the overt public wins with, yes, exception. I called the White House yesterday. I got them after hours. I'm going to call them back on Tina Peters. There is some other stuff going on, but overall, look at where we are right now, right? With President Trump, Saudi Arabia, the Epstein Act, and a whole bunch of other things coming out, where it's basically like America against the world, but on top of that, the world at the highest levels is for America. So this video, I think, is a great summary that was up on X that I saw yesterday. And I think it's a perfect example of what happened at the White House when President Trump was showing the king is showing the prince. Make no mistake, King Trump 100% is showing the prince of Saudi Arabia the RoboPen picture. Look at this.
We choose truth over facts.
We do a little trolling. It's called we do a little trolling.
Come on, man. We choose truth.
Man, that's perfect.
Oh, that's so good, isn't it? Yeah. So good. So good. And why I put the deep state takedown of McDonald's as part of the title. That's in the title. The title, King's Trump winning. Saudi Arabia, Muslim Brotherhood, designated yesterday on the visit with the prince, Muslim Brotherhood, a terrorist organization, and the death of the deep state McDonald's, because McDonald's been feeding people to people, carnivores, disgusting, right? Feeding people to people. And on top of that, we saw President Trump speaking at the Golden Age McDonald's Summit, playing the Undertaker song. So here it is, Real AF Patriot on X posted this. And I'm not going to play the whole minute plus of the song, but just so everybody has the veracity of what this means and the comms out there for the world. And there you go. Look at that.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 45th and 47th President of the United States.
Wow. They forced them all to sit there to listen to that and stare at that on this stage. And if anybody is not aware, and I've back-checked this as well, why is that powerful and remarkable? Well, going back, since it's spiritual warfare, that you have the book of black magic, dark magic, right here. That's where the McDonald's logo is from. The book of black magic, the letter M is the logo, is a sigil in the symbol for black magic. And it says the McDonald's founder, Raymond Albert Kroc, was a 33rd degree Mason. That's how he really got the money to start his business. Kroc was a high priest in the Church of Satan. Disney and McDonald's have always had a close partnership because of the Masonic Brotherhood. Masons are closely connected to all charities involving children. The golden arch, and the logo itself is Masonic. It also represents the Ark of Baal, a satanic god whom the cult worships. And they got the Undertaker yesterday. Amazing. Wild times. What executive orders do those ones fall under again? In case the audience is catching up.
Ask that again. I couldn't hear that.
What executive orders do those fall under once again, in case the audience is catching up? Child trafficking.
Oh, man. I mean, 13818. It also ties in to all your Department of Justice. A lot of people don't realize that drug trafficking is one of the key funders of child trafficking. So it also ties into your enhanced counter narcotics operation, which is Executive Order 13773. And these were all in 2017. I mean, this is how long this has been, invoked in an operation. And again, you don't just need an executive order with a national emergency. An executive order is exactly what it says. It's a presidential Article 2. So if President Trump was a king, a dictator, a pedophile, a Nazi, all these things that they charge of him, then they should have abolished every single one of those, and they didn't. An emergency, a national emergency requires a joint resolution with Article 2 and Article 1, your legislative and executive, and especially if it was deemed unconstitutional. But then a regular executive order, pen, paper, president as well. If Joe Biden would have been president, he'd had the same power and authority as every other president. How come they let every single one of these make it through to January the 20th, 2025 to hand to President Trump? I mean, it's the same thing. We're talking about Christmas here. It's like a big, giant box wrapped with a big red bow on it going, here you go, President Trump. We didn't revoke any single Title 10, Title 32 military order, National Guard order, reserve components. Those are intact. And then also these 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies are intact. And also all of your executive orders regular are intact for these operations, the big farm operation and going after all the forms of drug trafficking. You can't get any more clear than that. So, I mean, if people would just apply that, even if you can't comprehend every intricacy, if you just apply that, that would make no sense whatsoever legislatively. When you would have the authority and the power to revoke everything, terminate everything, but you just hand it right back over to the guy that you call a dictator, a king, the one you say is destroying America, destroying everything. Well, you gave him that's like me handing you an axe, right? And you destroy my barn or my house or whatever it is, and then turning and saying, hey, you're a terrorist. And I just handed you the axe and watched you tear it down and didn't say a word. But then when you got it completely on the ground, Brad, you tear it. That's what.
Yep. I had
President says that saying where he said in COVID, he said the cure can't be bigger than the problem. Well, all you got to do is take the word cure out and put resolution in and go, the resolution cannot be bigger than the problem. This stuff's not difficult. It's really simple. And that you and I both know, being in the military, you don't need 47 orders to complete one mission. You need one order, the commander who enforces the order, and the soldiers to do the mission.
Yeah. I had we have somebody in the chat that's got a deer in Alabama, and they're pulling out the backstrap and they're watching on the chat. This is awesome. I mean, this is great in the backwoods, and I'll go to them in a second just to give them a kudos. All those others, yeah, absolutely sending it. But, 2 days ago, for everybody who wasn't on the show here live stream, Divine Heroine show, I had Susan Price, Gold Star mother, U.S. Army veteran, on. Lynn Scott Hageman, SRA child trafficking survivor spokeswoman, Cindy Lou Young, J6 grandmother, pardoned, and Dr. Jan Halper-Hayes. And Dr. Jan Halper-Hayes, to this point, she just said, hey, I've just come back from 24 years living in London. I'm in DC now. I'm awaiting for the confirmation, go through the check for her appointment at the Department of Defense under Secretary Hegseth and Brigadier General Tata. And when we were talking about this, she said, well, I can tell you, and this is public, that the Brunson case, everybody was talking about, remember a year ago and 2 years ago, the Brunson case. The Brunson case has been put on the back burner. There's an NDA signed so that we can see all of this get going. Right. And what everybody is become very much aware of now with President Trump, his strategy and his team is shove them into the spotlight and watch them implode on themselves. And here we are. It's really incredible. Let me go to that. Roddy, ROTTI 72, backwoods of Georgia. Sorry, I said Alabama. Cleaning. Like a backstrap, kick-ass brothers. That's awesome.
Hey, I wasn't going to say anything, but I wasn't call out on Roddy. But I was going to say, if he's cleaning one in Alabama, season don't start till Saturday. So
yeah, he did say Georgia. I misspoke.
Yeah.
We don't want any game wardens, conservation officers coming in and tracking down.
No.
Georgia boys in our back foot. What's going on?
No, we don't want to tell on him. He's I'm proud of it because man, I'm ready myself because man, people don't know when you can cook backstrap. Actually, hamburger meat too is pretty good from a deer, but straight off the grass fed, straight off the woods, people just don't realize what they're missing. Man, it's good stuff.
Oh yeah. Far better than McD's. Mr. Bass 1986 in the chat on Rumble says when McDonald's put the sign over 6 billion served, they were not talking about the customer count. They were talking about the menu. Sick MFers need to be publicly executed. There you are. Yep.
Yeah.
Man, if you're willingly complicit in child trafficking and feeding people to people, you know it and you support that, remedy.
Well, that's exactly, you said this earlier in the reel about that. These strategic operations, the irregular warfare, unconventional, it's not even that real deep of a tactic. But like you say, you make them start talking about it. You make them acknowledge it. You make them talk about it. You make them expose themselves. You get the low-level hanging fruit that think they're liberals, and some of them really are. But you get those stirred up about it, get them talking about it, get them engaged in it, and then look at them. That's like we've been telling people, just relax. This is an operation. Just chill. Some things you're seeing, you need them to do that because they're fully engaged on it like piranhas. And then when the truth comes out, like Pritzker is now tied into Epstein. You've been hearing Pritzker. You heard Hakeem Jeffries. He stood up there and did they replicated in a backwards manner the Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, where he stood up there for all those hours and spoke. And the liberals thought, here's our hero, Hakeem Jeff. He's tied into it, and like they're putting all these people on this frontage. This is the operation. Elon was in the meeting doing the tip of the spear again, the spearhead right back here, special operations. Like the whole thing.
Last night at dinner, right beside each other. Remember, it was only 3 months ago. Doge.
Republicans.
Yeah. And there you have one of the most magnificent women on the planet, smiling like, look at this. Wink, wink.
See, the other thing about this is you and I have called out. You and I have taken on all kinds of trolls, haters, negative, naysayers, this all the time. What we've been trying to tell people is this. Talk good about me, talk bad about me, but you're talking about me, right? We're not talking about you. We defend and say whatever we have to if we have to when we need to, but we're not talking about you and these negative people daily. They are. But the point we're trying to say is this, Brad knows this better than anybody. Brad served. All right, we all have buddies that still serve, have served, etc. But everybody knows when you draw a line in the sand, you better be willing to stand on your side of the line and defend what you defend, because what you project out there and what you put out there is what you got to defend whenever the truth comes out. So all these people that have jumped ship, all they do is expose themselves, especially to their friends and family, whoever they may be. And so all those people who try to gain publicity and build a show, whether it be in fraud or theft or frame up and all the things they tried on me 3 years ago, well, now they're really going to look bad, especially if they're a veteran. And some of them were veterans. So see, they're going to show they didn't know the whole time. And these people, just 3 months ago, the Republicans, rhinos, the never Trumpers, jumping ship. I'm so embarrassed of this feud. And it's like you're focusing on the distraction piece that others are supposed to. You're not supposed to focus on that. You're supposed to focus on the 45-47 that we keep outlining consistently. Now, 3.5 years moving on into 4, right? It's still going. The laws and orders show that, not Brad and Derek Johnson. We're showing you the laws and the orders, and we're doing what we're supposed to be doing as soldiers who are not internally in the military anymore. We're externally out, but I've been given an opportunity and have a badge for it. Brad has other things that he's got, but we all have an oath, and the oath only stands for one thing. And when you carry out that oath, well, what it says, you can only have one uniform code of military justice, only one. And that's what it says in our oath for the United States of America. And that's all we're outlining. So it's just things are really about to amp up. Tom Homan mentioned again, 30,000 children discovered. All right. Now you and I and everybody else has already known about that. But for the people out there that didn't, if you don't have a heart for that, you tell your friends out there. We know our followers know this, but you tell your friends out there, if you don't have a heart for that, you probably need to be on the suspect list.
100%. 100%. Yeah. 30,000 children saved, just announced the last few days ago by Borders. Our Tom Homan, out of the 300,000 that went missing under the Biden RoboPen regime, which was run by Obama in Denver out of a compound and some other places too. Darren Gaudette in our chat on YouTube, the comment is up on the screen, says 45-47. I love it. I'm Canadian. I figured that out immediately. LOL. Windsor, Ontario, Canada. I mean, right there. We are just about, when people keep asking me, I had a question on a chat yesterday, like, Brad, tell me Canada is part of America. When it will happen? Like, here's your sign. Right. And yeah, is it freaking frustrating? Is it brutal? 100%. You know, like, I don't know how many Canadians in 8 weeks were at Universal Ostrich Farm. Show of hands. I was with Pastor Artur Pawlowski and Derek Reimer and his amazing people, his parish, and some incredible people there. I think it was Marika and Manuel. If you're watching, you know, God bless you. And Pastor Artur's father, his wife, and his daughter, incredible to see them. And then over in Ottawa with Governor Norman Traversy of the 51st state and a whole bunch of other great patriots too. So obviously it's coming, but right now, part of the operation, to what Derek has just said, you know, you look at that, you've got the Alberta freedom movement, right? And here's a picture, a great meme too. And independent Alberta will become the home for people who want a better future. So there's Alberta from space. How great is that?
That's freaking awesome.
That's awesome. And somebody posted this coin. I showed it last week. I love that. Northern state of Canada, right, for Alberta. 51st state. And, you know, it can be all Canada too. So we'll see how the operation goes forth, because you can see how they're using what Pastor Artur Pawlowski quotes, the whore of Babylon, Danielle Smith, current acting premier of Alberta, his great quote, that they're using her as a way to, you know, play back and forth against the Canadian government and parliament. And for any Canadians who are here, because we have a couple in the chat, so I'll address this for a moment, that they just passed the new spending bill in parliament. I keep doing the air quotes here. And how many people voted for that? You saw the members of parliament vote? 170. 170 voted for it. 170. So even the numbers are being played. Derek has shown here in the last meeting that Mark Carnage had with President Trump at the White House, you know, somebody was 6 inches shorter all of a sudden. How do you get 6 inches shorter? And pretty soon, by the way, the silver squeeze in Canada. I think this is going to be a great one for 51st state. So we'll continue on to yesterday's remarkable meeting of King Trump with the Prince of Saudi Arabia, the man who did the sword dance. So before we talk about the UN and what just happened there for everybody, would you mind, Eric, just giving everybody a little bit of a recollection for the several hundreds, 500 or so now in Rumble and the ones we have in YouTube watching live, a little bit about what the sword dance is during Trump's capitulation tour in 2017. Then I'll backfill a little information from Major General Valley as well.
Well, I recommend people just always go to Google anytime and look up, traditions or customs of a U.S. president and just name whoever, like just say it, say Saudi Arabia prince or, things like that. So, but basically a sword dance is they're basically like crowning a king, right? And now the liberals, right? The liberals say stuff like, liberals are the kind where they know it, but they try to spin it, right? And we're over here like, you'll get over it because he is the king in another kind of manner. Now, not the kind of king from the monarchy and that. This is meaning the supreme commander. Every world leader is adhering to President Trump. It's not because it's President Trump. Now, I always make sure people know that I love President Trump. I've had the honor and privilege of being around him quite a few times. And but I look at him no different than you and I being around a general. Just etiquette, respect, yes. But you still got to be yourself too, right? Because you're someone that they can trust and bring up the ladder as well for the loyalty standpoint. But what I want people to remember too is like Saudi Arabia, you got to look at this strategic area of Saudi Arabia as well, and how big Saudi Arabia is. You got to look at the monetary value of Saudi Arabia, the oil, the production, and you've seen it. A lot of you, if you're over 50, you definitely have seen it in another manner from the standpoint of days of old and what they were trying to do. And things have always kind of been skirted here and there. Military's always been separate. And I know this is why things have to be careful, because you'll have a group of people who could have said, well, if you military always knew, how come you didn't do something before? Well, they have done. Military's always been separate, and they've always battled. The generals, admirals have always battled with the presidents and with, the presidents with their Congresses. So there's always been these like just no structure, no rank structure, no chain of command where it was absolutely on point all the way up. So Saudi Arabia is very, very key component. And then you heard President Trump, if you watched the video, you heard President Trump alluding to that with the prince. And then if you listen to the prince talk about their history, what did they also bring up? Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So that's another key thing, because you got to look at the timeline of FDR, what all happened with FDR, the laws and the orders with FDR, and then Saudi Arabia. So I danced around just to get back to whenever you saw President Trump in 2017 and then the sword, that showed you then. That showed you then. And that one sword dance can show a few things. Epstein. If President Trump had been in the Epstein files, the leverage would have been back then. The threat would have been back then. President Trump was the threat in 2015 and 2016 when he rolled down the escalator and then he ran for president, the campaign. That's when the threat would have been to the deep state, to the swamp, to the global elitists. That's where he was the threat, not now. Now it's the latter part of the operation. So guess who would have had the greatest leverage on President Trump? Epstein. He wasn't in jail yet. He wasn't in prison yet. And if President Trump was on the outs with him, as he said, and it's true, then he would have had the greatest leverage. Now look at all the tie-ins with Epstein and all these Democrats. They would have had ultimate leverage on President Trump. They would have prevented President Trump. But what's so key about this is President Trump himself, just as regular Donald John Trump, and I mean no disrespect to him without the title in front of him, But just Donald John Trump as a man did not walk in with a presidential title and make all these capitulations happen. That was those aircraft you just saw there. My dad is one of those who's always said, them Chinese can bark all they want from the ground, but when them B-1s, B-2s, and B-52 bombers fly over their asses, they ain't going to do much talking on the ground. Those aircraft are a sign of strength and force, power, and also that we have the greatest technology in the world. We have men and women now who not only fly these jets, but also every one of us that make up the fabric of the military. Our hearts are for humanity. Our hearts are for freedom. Our hearts are for every nation to have the same thing that the founders established for us and passed us and said, here you go, keep it going. We fought this war back here for this reason. Keep it going, that ideology. All right. And every nation has to want that. Well, that's what you've seen with the Saudi Arabia, the sword. All right. And then the other thing, President Trump patting him on the back, patting him on the leg. In custom of Saudi Arabia, you don't touch once whatsoever publicly, especially. You do not make any gestures like that with royalty, with dynasty like that. So President Trump sitting there, and then come on, people. That's it's like, and that's just one capitulation, but it is a key one because of the sword. And you think of Prince, and you think of royalty, and you think of all the history of the princes, and then he mentioned his grandfather and FDR. So you know this is it's not resetting history in the wrong way. It's just going, hey, they're telling me from here to here it went really awry from 1941 to 2016.
Yep.
So they're giving you that timeline. The timeline I always talk about: the First War Powers Act, the Second War Powers Act, the Unified Budget, the Civil Rights, the Nixon shot, inflation, deflation, all these things, military-industrial complex, medical complex. You know, that's what they're alluding to.
100%. And in 2015, a reporter asked President Trump, running then for 45, about Epstein and the Epstein Island. And he said, well, you know, I kicked him out of my clubs because he was a pervert. But if you want to know about the island, you should talk to Prince Albert. Yeah. Prince Albert knows all about it. So he's doing those comms right there. And I have a clip from yesterday, repurposed by Julie Donuts, of good old President Trump, the king, with the prince. And here it is. He's saying it for himself, like Derek's been telling you here for a long time. President Trump about being friends for a long time. It's about a 1 minute clip. I'll play the entire minute, 6 seconds.
A lot of jobs. We have a lot of jobs. So I just want to thank you. Period of time. We've always been on the same side of every issue. I think we've done a great job in wiping out the nuclear capacity of Iran. Nobody else could have done that. No other president would have done it. We had the pilots in the Oval Office right here. We were celebrating a very successful attack. So I had them in with that beautiful B-2 bomber that's over there. And they said, sir, for 22 years, we practiced this attack. Our predecessors, these were very young guys. So 22 years, they said our predecessors and us practiced the attack on Iran. But no president ever gave us the go-ahead. 3 times a year they went out and they practiced the attack.
Hands.
Nobody let us do it until you came along.
There you go.
Because it was the right thing to do.
Everybody also catch that, right? We've been friends for a very long time. And watch President Trump's hands and then the Crown Prince.
But no president ever gave us the go-ahead. 3 times a year they went out and they practiced the attack. Nobody let us do it until you came along, and I let them do it because it was the right thing to do. You can't have a nuclear Iran. And so we put you in a very good position. But I just want to say it's an honor to be your friend, and it's an honor that you're here. And if you'd like to say.
There you go. Look what Derek's holding up. Yep. Why don't you share with our international audience who doesn't know about what that symbol means. If they don't have Midnight Rider 1, 2, or the book of Midnight Rider, or Bible rather, excuse me, or the Royal Flush Country Music, but all it's in Midnight Rider, as Derek points out, at rattletrap1776.com. Scrolling on the screen right below in the description. Why don't you share for people what that sign means, that spade on your hat you were holding?
So this is your Special Operations Command, Special Operations, ladies and gentlemen, which would consist of irregular warfare, unconventional warfare, which you just flip it upside down because it'd be hard to, it'd really be obvious if you did that, but you flip it up like that. And it's just it's a proclamation for one. That's a timestamp and a proclamation. And it's a moving piece of this 45-47, as that would have been a piece of the pie, what they're showing at this moment in time, November 17th, 18th, 19th, this week, and then whatever is coming. But there will be a disclosure. There will be a closure and disclosure of the 45-47 because that's what makes it unique. So these are all proclamations along the way. And it's just like, even though sports is pretty much rigged now, but that's the whole point, right? Is the fact that they have every stat known to man. Like, how many quarterbacks have won the Super Bowl or blah, blah, or like from Alabama or from Texas or whatever. Well, they have these stats. Well, someone with President Trump is tracking every tip of the spear proclamation video wise and putting that in a sequel. And then when he says the word white flag of surrender, when he says the word capitulation, when he said someone's tracking all these for the greatest story ever told when they do their production value of it. And they've been alluding to this. Someone posted yesterday that President Trump, that people's grandchildren and grandchildren, they'll be talking about this man and what took place. And he alluded to that himself back in January 2021. He said 7, I think it was, which would be ideal for whom? Native Americans, the 7 generations. But he said your great, 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 great grandchildren will live to talk about this day. A old white man being inaugurated, another old white man named quote unquote Joe. That wouldn't have been something that 7 generations would have talked about, just that alone. So it's so brilliant. When you look at the bigger piece, but unconventional and irregular warfare is still lawful, but it's separate and it allows the military to operate in a war zone, making the national, so the war in national defense, not international, which would be your law war manual and other things, Hague Conventions, Geneva Conventions, etc. But you make the United States of America an occupied territory. And that's what President Trump has said all throughout those speeches. I tell people 2021, 2022, 2023, those are not midterm rally speeches. We've never had a president do a midterm rally to get people elected for a primary. That's never happened before. Sure, there's always a first time for everything. You can say that, but when you look at the laws and orders, those were all proclamation speeches. And all along the way, he would amp up certain things like the pause and the SEC.gov and what they were doing. And then he said key terms all along the way. Those are proclamations. So in irregular and unconventional warfare, everything that they were doing when they want to make it visual, then that clandestine covert operation, that's like I tell people, when he says something, there's something coming. Just wait. It could be a day, it could be a week, it could be a month, but wait. It's an operation. And so Special Operations Command would be to where, like you and I know, and a general, I know quite a few generals, and they all have met twice a year for years. The generals have with the presidents, admirals as well, but they meet. So this would have been a case where you and I know, and we know it was the plan. They came together, put a plan together. Every aspect of this was pre-planned, every aspect.
Yeah.
And they would have gone to President Trump and said, would you like to be the face of this? Because you do have to take the heat, the mockery, the ridicule, the shame, all this, plus his children, his grandchildren's lives would change for the real portion of it, the security, the details, and things of that nature. Here's what your life will be doing. Here's what your kids will have to do. Here's what your grandkids. So, and we will have them protected. You'll be protected like no other in the world history. All right. But here's your pros. Here's your sacrifices. And, so I tell people, I don't knock President Trump. It's nothing to knock, but he's the face of it. He's not the whole plan. He's the face. Somebody had to be the face. And he's the perfect person because he had already had publicity. He'd already had adversity. He'd already had all kinds of stuff on a lower scale, like the, old women and divorces and things of that nature. If you can handle that as a male, the false accusations with a female, you could pretty much handle anything, because that's one of the worst things they do when you're a male is say something about, So anyway, the special operations, these are all proclamations, and those are your visuals. Patriots already know this, but if you're brand new, you're sitting on the fence, that's your visual that this is a military operation. It most certainly is. And the laws and orders show this. Therefore, you got to know what? You got to know those laws and orders, but then you also have to know irregular warfare, unconventional warfare, guerrilla warfare, asymmetrical warfare. There's a multitude of different warfares that you can take. You can take a whole, you can take pieces, you can take two of them. There's no set answer except for whenever there's an operation and it's made public. Then someone like me, Brad, Lieutenant Colonel Bosey, Colonel Sellers, Major General O'Connor, everybody that we, especially the special operators, can say, well, this, and someone like Jaco on the Navy SEAL side, CIA could go, well, this component, that component, combine it. Man, this is awesome. And that's all we've been doing is showing, when something's been clandestine, covert, and they make it public, then we say, hey, well, this would have been that, a little bit of this, or maybe all of this, or part of this. That's what special operations has been doing. And there was three things, just three things that were consistent around quote unquote Joe, the puppet government. Puppet government, ladies and gentlemen, unconventional warfare. All right. So 2021 to 2025 was a puppet government. It's all been done when? World War II. Who was the president? Franklin Delano Roosevelt. All right. So the puppet governments were done back then. My grandfather served during the most popular puppet government in the Army from 43 to 45. That's why I know so much about those, because he loved that tactic. He loved that strategy. And I learned from my grandfather and my great uncles who were all during the war back then. So the puppet government, all right, that's your unconventional warfare. So, President Trump kept saying the whole time, we're an occupied country, occupied country, occupied country. So when you hear people out there say that civilians can't be tried in the military court, oh, yes, they can. The Uniform Code of Military Justice, which is military law. All right, you go to Article 2, Section 802, read in there, and it says it has to be an occupied territory and a few other things, right? Declaration of war, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Why is President Trump using law war manual terms with average everyday people at rallies and also press conferences? If he was a normal president, there would be no reason to be using law war language. And so those are the little things that show you the special operations, the puppet government, and that Joe Biden wasn't real. So the three things that were consistent to prove that, the three things meaning it aligns with President Trump and the laws and orders, not Joe Biden. So when people hear that out there in the normal world, you hear, oh, three things consistent with Joe. No, three things consistent with the operation 2021 to 25. The insignia. If you go back to President Trump's inauguration, January the 20th, 2017, when he raised his right hand, he said, we're taking the power out of D.C. and giving it back to you, the people. Military walked down behind him. Military intelligence headband and judge advocate general, which who gathers information in the military for military courts? Military intelligence. Who puts it in the courts and tries it, studies it, reads it, and then tries it? JAG does, judge advocate generals. So there's two. They added one more visual. Every time you saw quote unquote Joe in any kind of photo, any kind of video, they always had at least one of these three. Now it sounds like four, but you and I know this is one command. The one that they showed was your special operations, which would be your psychological warfare and your civil affairs. All right. So now those two are together. So a civil affair would be your puppet government side. Your psychological warfare will be your government net side. And President Trump just validated this a month and a half ago when he met with the Turkish president. He says these things awkwardly where people can hear it. And our Canadian friend there who picked up on 45-47, he didn't have to awkwardly hear it because he already knows. So shout out to him. All right. But what was I just saying? I was talking about what was he just saying? I just said something. I gave a shout out and I forgot what I was talking about.
PDGT, Turkey, the Turkey. Yeah.
He says things that's like awkward. Yeah. It'd be like me sitting here talking to you and going, like Brad, making syrup.
Yeah.
Or
68 toothpicks.
Yeah, like it will be like, I don't want to make fun of anybody, but it almost be like Tourette's. I'm not trying to make fun, but some people out there love that they, people with certain things can embrace it. So it'd be like me and you just sitting here and all of a sudden I'm like, the Sovereign Buddha, and you're like, whoa, like, did you like, have a hiccup and it, so like President Trump's sitting there and he'll be talking and he'll go, when I was in exile, and you're like, wait, he just really like broke that down really slow, like Matthew McConaughey in a movie, like he's like really talking real fast, like Pauly Shore, and then all of a sudden, when I was in exile, right? And he did that 3 times in this Turkish president, 3 times. He goes, he remained my friend when I was in exile, and then he goes, when I was in exile, blah, 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 in exile. Wow. And like if you're listening to it, all the other little sentences sounded normal. Blah, 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 then exile just stood out the way he said it. And so those are your proclamations and your validations, because they fully expect people in this chat box here, they fully expect people, the ones who want to know, who want to contribute, who want to be a pillar, they expect people to hear those things, and they do, the people who follow. But guess what you are? Kudos again. You're in the 1.7 percentile, and I use that number strategically, but also it was the real number. When you take the Navy, the Army, and the Marine Corps of the Revolutionary War and divide population into that, on an average of 9-year revolutions, it was 1.7% that fought in the Revolutionary War.
That includes the 2nd Canadian Regiment in the Continental Army under George Washington.
So what were the other 98.3% doing? Yeah. This ain't happening. This ain't real. This is hogwash. You're a grifter. You're a liar. You're a this. And they weren't fighting though. So, and then when it settled, the dust settled, you have this beautiful ideology. You have the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. You have your Federalist Papers. You have Common Sense by Thomas Paine. You have all these literature that rose from the smoke and the fire and the ashes and everything. And that's where we're sitting here today. And so, man, that special operations, if people would study that aspect, irregular warfare, unconventional warfare, asymmetrical warfare, all the different warfares, just dive into that a little while. You'll have fun with it. If you're a creative person, you can think however you want to think, as long as you have a foundation. Like there's all kinds of variables that you can use for operations, missions, battles, etc. And that's why they have layers of soldiers. But what does President Trump say all the time? We got to protect what? Our IQ. So they want soldiers and people who have brilliant IQ, who can think multiple layers, compartmentalization, multitasking, but also do what? Still have a foundation, right? With no ulterior motives, intents, motives, and agendas.
Yep.
Right. So, yeah. I go a long way around the world, but special operations is you and I both know it's a big field. It's a big mindset. It's a big psychological warfare, psychologically. But
And everybody just remember too, as well, you know, it was only 3 years ago, Derek and I are at the Kiwanis Club Truth Tour, and I'm up there 8 minutes into my speech, and all of a sudden, whoa, the entire building rocks. The windows are shaking. Derek's outside, right there at a table, looking at the flight app on his phone, and we all look out, tailpipe, F-16. 30 seconds later, like, wow, that was incredible, because at I-25 and I-70 at that intersection, I-80, I-25 and I-80 intersection, where you have the Kiwanis Community Center in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and the military base on the west side of 25. And then you also have an airport, which is not only just for commercial aircraft, but also for military aircraft, just a little northeast of that location by a couple hundred freaking feet or football fields, a few of them. You don't have F-16 fighter jets at 100 to 150 feet off the deck roaring over a residential area. It just doesn't happen. And then 30 seconds later, boom, it happened again, tailpipe F-16. So we all go outside like, wow, that's amazing. And then another, and then another, and another, and another. So we had 8 F-16 flyovers independently. You know, they could have circled and came back around. 8 F-16 flyovers, about 30 seconds to a minute apart at 100 to 150 feet off the deck, with the C-130s then flying over. And then for 5 more hours, we had a Black Hawk helicopter on station in a slow hover above us. The crew chief are hanging out. You know, the door gunners as well, waving at us, the pilot, the co-pilot waving at us, just doing a slow hover around the community center while we were there 3 years ago. And then when I had just a month after that, Colonel Chuck Sellers, former deputy commander of U.S. Army Delta Force, here on the show, with Michael Jaco, former U.S. Navy SEAL Team 6, CIA GRS, 11 years as well. So 24 years in the Navy, 11 years CIA GRS, 3.5 decades of life, and Major and Bishop Jim O'Connor, West Point 1976, an MBA, and in Gulf One on the show. I'm like, well, gentlemen, who could have authorized that so the audience can hear this? And Colonel Sellers and Michael and Bishop Jim looked at each other and they went, either the commander-in-chief or the National Command Authority. And that's it. To actually break the hard deck, which everybody heard in Top Gun 1, and allow military aircraft to be at 100 to 150 feet off the deck, not just for a few minutes, but for the entire day that we were there, giving us signals, doing the wing wags, which happens when the jets are going by and the C-130s. Like, there you are when you talk about a special operation, which has continued forward for years since President Trump came in as 45. And back to my point, I was going to say, to backfill some points from Major General Valley, you know, Major General Paul Lee Valley here, who we'll be talking to again tonight, and hopefully we'll be on the show next week. By the way, everybody, it's his birthday next week. So if you have a chance, go to StandUpAmericaFoundationUS.org. Not only is he the chairman of that, with him and Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney, U.S. Air Force, 3-star. When he retired, flew 4 combat tours in Vietnam, West Point 1959 graduate, and he flew 407 combat missions in Vietnam. This man volunteered for his tours to keep going back, Lieutenant General McInerney. So go give those men some love at Stand Up America US Foundation, but also say a happy birthday to General Valley. He is the man who orchestrated, not only did he co-draft America First for President Trump, which became the America First policy, he also was the man in America who facilitated the meeting in 2017 meeting, very famous, with President Trump and President Putin. So when they had to go to somebody and say, could we get our president together with your president? It was Major General Paul Lee Valley. They called up. He was in Paris. They closed the entire Russian embassy consulate in Paris, set it up for him, brought him in, had the meeting, And as he has shared here, well, he's been here many times on the show. Amazing man. He's shared here several times on the show. And then from that, put it together and then was in Moscow. So again, special operation. This is a man who is a national treasure, 100%. And knows a thing or two about special operations, being that when he retired in 1992, he was the deputy commander of Army Forces Pacific Theater, with about 20 years of special operations and special forces command experience underneath him, including being West Point 1961 grad, U.S. Army Ranger, and a paratrooper, and 2 tours of Vietnam. And in between his 2 tours of Vietnam, which were 1-year-long tours at that time, everybody, he wrote the U.S. Army manual, updated it since the Korean War, on using sniper weapon systems. So all the U.S. Army snipers, which was borrowed, I heard, from the Marine Corps later, and I haven't got that verified as well, he updated the manual since the Korean War. So incredible, an incredible man. And he's still serving.
Oh, I also had to say something about him too. When you and I, we were all on the podcast back, it's been in April of this past year or this year. We were on the podcast, and he was asked a question, right? He's fielded a question that he couldn't really answer by NDA. He could if he wasn't. And then this shows you an example where people can understand military too. This would be no disrespect, even though we're all out of the military now, per se. Generals really aren't, but in another way they are. But they aren't another way. But I was like, the general can't answer that, but I can. You remember he did the thumbs up, right? And I fielded something in another manner that it set up another thing. But you, right now, as we speak, I got to pull it again in another manner and post it. But he told everybody, this is General Paul Vallely now. He told everybody, he said, I gave President Trump an offensive plan and a defensive plan with Mexico, right? And talking about the border. He said he actually went with the defense first by building the wall. And he was like, and I can tell you right now, we have special operations troops right now in Mexico ready to roll. And what did you just see a couple weeks ago in mainstream media? That military are in Mexico ready to roll to take out the full drug cartels. And you have a general who just sat here and told you way back in April, right? Yeah. Way back. That is a time stamp, ladies and gentlemen, right? And he has the more than the full credentials, obviously. The whole reason we're talking about him, to show a general, high-level general, special operations. He told you in April. Now you're seeing it hit the mainstream media.
Yep.
Yeah. Amazing. That guy. Yeah.
Amazing.
And what people need to realize too, also really fast, is you and I both never served under him. But see, what people need to realize is when men and women, there are some women generals and admirals, but when they reach that status and they're doing everything by the book of humanity and everything, there's not anything that they wouldn't ask us to do that we wouldn't do. Yep. And they deserve it because they spent their life and got to that status. I mean, that's what I wish people could really think about, the chill bumps, but they dedicated their whole life to service and also made it through without wounded and other things, right? They made it through the perseverance and all the other things that they've seen and done, and they made it to this level. So it's the same thing like President Trump. It was his appointed time to be asked to do this, and somebody had to do it, right? So that's why everybody has to find your purpose. You and I talked about this not long ago. Like, I'm happy where I am doing what I'm doing, because if you and I, either together or separately, were still in the military, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing right now. We wouldn't be able to say what we're saying, because not all of it's secretive, but some of it ties into that. So the certain things we're saying is still doing the oath, but we wouldn't be able to talk to as many people as we do. We wouldn't be able to say, hey, don't look at this, don't do this, don't look at that, don't read this, don't fall for this. Right? We're able to do what we're doing, and we all have been given this spot and this position in this lane, right? And I'm happy where I'm at. I don't ever look and wish that I could be up here. Do I think I could be here and fulfill that? Yes, but I don't ever try to look over here. If I get asked to move up, then I'll take the opportunity, right? So a lot of people need to find your purpose where you are, right? Don't worry about where you're not. And then also don't look back where you've been, only in appreciation to get to where you are. And so many people, I think, if they would look at it that way, this man, he's one of many, but he is one to be praised. So I would highly recommend to write him a happy birthday and thank you for your service.
Absolutely. Yep. And he has walked the path. His family, they've lost their son in special forces. As well, talk about paying ultimate prices and friends and family and still serving. That's at standupamericaus.org. You go there. Everybody, you can see our show that we did just 2 weeks ago, just one-on-one, Gerald Alley and I. It was actually only like 9 days ago. It was a week ago Friday. And it's right here on Rumble and also on YouTube and on Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon podcasts if you want to digest it and hear from that national treasure. Janetto in our chat on Rumble said there's lots of unsung heroes, some we will never know about. God bless our great military. Thank you, Janetto, for saying that. Really appreciate that. To move it just to a few moments of humor before we continue on with some United Nations stuff and Archbishop Vigano about the spiritual war, as we get into the last 1/3 of our show here, everybody. I want to acknowledge Whiskey Tango Foxtrot from a little while ago in the chat. We were talking about McRaunchy's. McDonald's said Kamala served McWillies at McDonald's. I love that. That's, absolutely. A lot of bit of truth there.
McWillies. Man, that's a
McWillies at McRaunchy's. Yep.
That's a good one there. I like that's hilarious.
That is hilarious. And then your good Hunter from Georgia, Roddy, has got a little bit more advice here. It says, deer hamburger, mix it with Rick's bacon. It's so good. If you put it on top of your head, your tongue will beat your brains in trying to get it. Man, I love that. I'm just hearing it with a Jeff Foxworthy accent right now. And I'm like, oh, that's so good. Your tongue,
that's a good one.
Your brain to get it if it's up on your head. I like that. Well said. Well said. We have a whole bunch of people in the chat, and love that everybody's participating with each other on YouTube and Rumble. There was a question I had about universal ostrich farms. Was that part of the plan? And were the ostriches, 300, 400 of them, just taken and it was all a joke? It was not a joke. It actually happened. 100% happened. All tyranny. No bueno. So we have a couple other people here who are talking about the special operation. Leela K63. My favorite was Eric Trump literally showing the hand gesture on stage blatantly. That's right. And then also in President Trump's inauguration this year, Eric was just doing this, and Laura kind of looked over at him and went, hey. And he's like, all right, that's enough. But front and center at the inauguration, right? So like, people, look at this. So proud. And then also Janetto says people don't understand the president's proclamation power. Yeah, that's part of what we've been talking about. So fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Andy 1969 says, what a good time to be alive. God is awesome.
Heck yeah.
100%. We
right
there. Yeah. Seraph 7 says, watch the 2011 White House Correspondents' Dinner. President Trump was inoculating himself to the ridicule and gaining eye of the tiger. They were surveilling him ever since. Brennan and Obama got the axe. Yep, so well done. Tamara Anderson, thank you for your service, Brad and Derek. Thank you, Tamara. Appreciate that. RPD 100 says, I've been following Derek since day one, and his knowledge of military laws and orders continues to amaze me 100%. Other people asking me, how you going, Brad? Yep, fantastic. So I'm going to put it over here now to Archbishop Vigano. And then if anybody's really curious as to, the special operation, An incredible announcement, which, just came down in the last 48 hours as well, too. But here's a quick clip from Jim Ferguson. He kind of does that thing. Jim Ferguson doesn't put glowing green around photos and videos, but he does put his own thing around it. So wherever he got this clip from, this is Archbishop Vigano. Remember, the Vatican, Greek goddess of the dark underworld, Vatican publicly kicked Archbishop Vigano out, and he's now in America. So this man is amazing. So here is his statement. Play it for about a minute or two about the truth breaking through.
A dangerous subversive elite has managed to infiltrate the highest levels of Western institutions and governments to implement the criminal plan of the Agenda 2030. In many self-proclaimed democratic states, the voices denouncing this global coup are being silenced through censorship, intimidation, psychiatrization, and even arrest. Among the victims of the totalitarian regime quietly establishing itself in Europe, Canada, Australia, and other vassal nations of the United Nations, NATO, World Health Organization, and World Economic Forum, all private entities funded by the same powers, is lawyer Rainer Fulmich, unjustly imprisoned and still awaiting for a fair trial. His crime is having dared to speak the truth in a world of criminal lies. I call on Catholics and all people of goodwill to raise their voices in defense of those persecuted by the globalist regime. It is not Attorney Fulmich who should be in prison, but those who committed the greatest crime ever against humanity: Anthony Fauci, Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab, George Soros, Ursula von der Leyen, Albert Bourla, and all their accomplices and emissaries, especially those in institutional positions. Free Rainer Fulmich.
And we have in the chat here, YouTube, all roads lead to the Vatican, from Darren up in Windsor, Ontario. So all roads lead to Obama and the Vatican. Very powerful from that. That's the real white Pope, for Christianity right there. And if people aren't waking up, churches around Canada, Australia, even America with that message, and the rest of the world, they're done. That target audience, I think that they're below your target audience you keep talking about, especially with this. I'm going to read this. If this is news to anybody, it's old news because it's been around for 2 days. So that's real old news these days, from President Trump on Truth Social, just posting, because what happened? Yeah, they created the Board of Peace. He says, congratulations to the world on the incredible vote of the United Nations Security Council just moments ago, acknowledging and endorsing the Board of Peace, which will be chaired by me and include the most powerful and respected leaders throughout the world. This will go down as one of the biggest approvals in the history of the United Nations, will lead to further peace all over the world, and is a moment of true historic proportion. Thank you to the United Nations and all the countries of the UN Security Council, China, Russia, France, United Kingdom, Algeria, Denmark, Greece, Guyana, South Korea, Pakistan, Panama, Sierra Leone, Slovenia, and Somalia. Also, thank you to those countries that weren't on this committee, but strongly backed the effort, including Qatar, Egypt, United Arab Emirates, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Turkey, and Jordan. The members of the board and many more exciting announcements will be made in the coming weeks. By the way, everybody, where was President Trump at the United Nations General Assembly just how many weeks ago? And then what happened after that? Because the escalators didn't work. The audio in the auditorium didn't work. They took a $2 billion and put it in there instead of his $500 million quote that President Trump was going to do to redo that place. Oh, and then they played Nessun Dorma with Marine One landing on the other side of the Hudson right after that. You wanted to say something, brother? Go right ahead. So good.
So on that post, and I got it pulled up here, but it's going to be hard to see. But on that post, at the top, it says 719 replies. That's 17. It was posted 11/17/25. Add those up. That's 17. And then it's 444, which 444 is a sign for. So it's a widely regarded as a strong message from angels, spirit guides, or the universe that you are protected, supported, and on the right path. It's protection, stability, and foundation, encouragement to keep going. Like you know. I know people think sometimes, you know, the newbies, especially the newbies and or the newbie target audience thinks that's crazy. But if you think that numbers are crazy, then why do you complain so much about the economy and your bank account? So numbers are numbers, and they apply everywhere. Some more important than others, depending on the variation and the situation scenario. But you can't make that up. When that was posted. And it's not like that, you know, President Trump sitting there going, wait till 4:44 p.m. on this day. It's all on a godly, you know, like calendar for everybody. We're just all walking and talking. And if you're walking in the light, then God's speaking through you, working through you, right? And it's just all on his calendar because we're all on that, every one of us. So anyway, just thought I'd add that on that one. That's and the United Nations Security Council laced all in the Law War Manual.
Yep.
So.
Yep. All right there. And on top of that, just going into the weekend, the healthcare for Americans. Once again, there's that putting hands back into the power. You know, giving it back to the power of putting it back in the hands of the power of the people. That was during the inauguration is 45. And here it is, power to the people, underlined in his post on healthcare rather than going to insurance companies. And he's already said all Americans are going to get at least a $2,000 dividend check shortly. The business of America is good and getting better for everyone. So there you are. You know, it's just incredible. And then once again, do you remember when everybody, especially was coming after Derek, when, you know, on our shows, people asking in the chats like, well, what happened to Elon and Doge? And is it Elon 1, Elon 2? And he's talking about President Trump. And Elon's going out there and saying, because Trump was on Epstein Island. And then the Democrats like, yeah, Elon, he was. And then here they are. Ha, ha, ha. This right there, everybody.
You got played. Sting operation.
Yep. Yep. So good. So good. And I want to talk about this too and give some great prominence. This is a fantastic, you know, if you're not following Archbishop Vigano on Twitter X, please do. I encourage it. He posts very little, but when he posts, you know, he speaks with a lot of prowess, a lot of veracity and truth and wisdom. And Spiritual Street Fighter 17 is on Truth and X. And here it is, Midnight Riders Ride. So when she posted this, I shot it over to Derek. So here you are, Midnight Riders Ride. Never has this been attempted. Q+ Dark Delight. Now this is a picture of President Trump going up the stairway into the aircraft. Obviously AI generated and totally beautiful on November 17, 2025. If you want to go back on Monday to find that on her X or Truth account. The other thing too is, remember, since we're talking about Archbishop Vigano, this is spiritual warfare in Italy. When they had the Pope Francis little funeral earlier this spring, and President Trump got off Air Force One in Rome, Italy, and he had a whole bunch of reporters come around him, and he was saying, they were like talking about him running this time, and now he's the president. And he said, well, last time, you know, I'm paraphrasing just a touch here. He said, last time, you know, I was running to save the country, and now I'm the king and I run the world. Hello. So like Derek's pointed out with the president of Turkey, exile, still a friend of me when I was in exile, right? You know, like a sneeze, bless you, exile, right? Like here, like it's all right there for everybody. Just amazing. Just amazing. So cool. So cool. Whew, man, this is amazing.
All validation. It's just all validation for every operator, military, because and then also patriot out there. It's just validation. And if you and I talked about this, I hate when I have to close my blinds like I did earlier, but there's something different when you know the laws and orders that outline the 45, 47, whether you're an operator, secret military, general, admiral, whatever you are, veteran, civilian, wherever you are. When you know this, there's a different light that you can feel when you look outside. I told you this about when it happened. I felt the weight of the world lifted off. And that's just partially knowing stuff over here that we can't talk about. Everybody's privy to something depending on who you are and what you're doing with it. But then the stuff you can talk about, you can most certainly know. And there's so much to know that's public that you don't need anything really secretive. But when you know that, the light shines so much different than any other time in history that I've been alive. And I've felt all those, being a 18-year-old, knowing what was going on in the world. I was never that 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-old in college that was, all ingrained and wrapped up in college. I was always like, something ain't right about this, and this is it, like from institutions, right? I already knew the Constitution and the laws and the orders, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, man, I mean, it's a light that's so different that you can feel that spirit. You can feel that change. You can feel that rejuvenation. You can feel that renaissance, the golden age, once you know that. Now, I still think we can save some people. That's why, I probably still look like I'm, got an attitude sometimes, but it's a passion to go on trying to wake people up. And I think we're supposed to have that attitude until we die, per se, or until the operation is absolutely completely done, which is a no-brainer. But yeah, I mean, it's a good feeling though when you are prepared and you know what's coming and you know it's going to be ridicule, mockery, this, gnashing at the teeth, but not being a Bible beater here, or I'm not Billy Graham or anything by that nature, but the Bible does say no weapon formed against you will prosper. And when you're walking in the light, you're talking in the light, you're walking in the truth, you're talking in the truth, the people around you will know that. You won't have to say too much. You won't have to. It's cool to quote scripture, but you won't have to say too much around the scripture. You just do it, right? You just walk in that. But I love that verse. And I talked to a guy back in, I guess it was March this past year when I was down in Florida at an event. And he was telling me that, hey, I want to tell you something in the Hebrew context, because he was Jewish. And I said, okay, let me hear it. He said, when you talk about the 23rd Psalm, where it says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, it's like in Hebrew context, that's just the shadow of darkness. It's not necessarily just death itself. He said, yea, though I walk through the darkness, I will fear no evil, for thine art with me. Right? And when you think about it, it's still a lot more powerful, because death was still included in that. But if you're in a dark moment in your life, you're in a dark place in your life, you're in a dark, maybe divorce or whatever it is, when you're in a dark place in your life or a moment, the verse, be still and know that I am God, just take a deep breath, sit back, put your hands back. Not the world's still moving, the world's still operating. There's nothing I can do about certain parts of the world. I can only do my part and hope everybody joins in with me. But then you flip around and go, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of darkness, I will fear no evil, for thine art with me. But then fast forward in that, it says, I will prepare a table in the presence of your enemies. Boy, that to me, if you're a patriot out there, consider yourself a warrior, apply that every single day. If you have to put that on your dash of your vehicle, your wallet, your phone, screensaver, whatever it is, that tells you that even thousands of years ago, everybody's had an enemy. Everybody's had to fight. Everybody's had to stand up for truth. Everybody's had to stand up and fight. I will prepare a table in the presence of your enemies. God's got you. All you got to do is walk in faith, trust him, and then also don't say, oh, God wins. We know that. That's a given. But God, it's like my saying, you can lean on a shovel and pray for a hole. It's not going to dig itself. You got to do that. So it's a joint operation. And man, I don't know. I'm so pumped about right now. I can't even hardly stand it. If I could run like I used to, I would run every day and just be like, woo, you know, it's that feeling right now. It's like,
Governor Travis, Norman and I will put some of the Snarkle Puff beers, 1 mile down the end of the road. He and I will crack them. We'll start drinking it, and you can run toward us, and we'll all celebrate. Yeah.
Shoot, I'm gonna make you think. I'm gonna make you think I ran, and I'm gonna get in a little golf cart or something.
Oh, that's okay too.
And then park it somewhere close where you can't see, and then like go through the woods somehow.
That's the only way I like to golf. Yeah. Exactly. Got in the chat, Janetto's. Not Janetto. We had some other people here from Huntington Beach, laughing live. Hello from Surf City, Huntington Beach, California. You all are awesome. True News here. Yeah. Thank you. Aronofsky says, thank you, Brad and Derek. And thank you all for being here in the chat. We're coming up on 1,000 people over the course of the broadcast. So that's really wonderful. We appreciate it. One Eternal Light Vibration says, Vatican tries to get their hands on all birth certificates with your footprints, your souls. Yep. Got another sovereignty show coming up. So we'll be doing another one with Sovereign Pete. We've covered that a number of times here, but we'll keep doing it because, just like Derek and I are doing these Where We Go One, We Go All weekly shows, the key thing is there's new information that comes out. There's other things that are happening in the world. And it's also when you want to become not exactly perfect, because only the eternal Lord is perfect, right? The creator of everything, our great omnipresence of divinity. But what you want to do is have repetition, and repetition is the mother of all skill, as we know. So you keep coming back to that. So it's just awesome. And hi, Derek and Brad from Bud33. That's awesome. We haven't seen this handle for a while. God bless you. Popped in for a sec to say that I'm at work, so I'll watch you later. Keep up doing your great job, you too. Everybody, I did put just 10 minutes ago, once again, Derek's link's in the chat. I'll do it again. It's also right below the description because you got to go to rattletrap1776.com, especially since we're just over a week away from American Thanksgiving, transitioning into the holidays. It's an excellent time to get the Trinity Pack of Midnight Rider 1, 2, and the Bible. Right from Derek on his website. If you can, if you're in the USA corporate boundaries right now, you get it directly from Rattletrap 1776. He will sign them. They will send that out. Remember, he's got a big family. That family right there in Bama goes all the way back to the 17th century, serving, fighting, standing up for truth, justice, freedom for the country and for God. So, they're going to be very busy really soon. I think this is the time to get all your orders in. Makes great stocking stuffers too, especially if you have any target audience libtards out there. You're like, hey, look at this. Derek Johnson signed his book with us. This publishing deal was signed in Commander-in-Chief President Trump's chair at his golf club. He allowed Derek to do that. You guys are going to love it. It's in the Smithsonian. Just watch them all freak, right? And then take it back from them and hang on to it because they're probably going to try and chuck it. But anyway, it's a good time, right? It's a party favorite there. But it's all powerful, all the information, which he has outlined there to a T. This man with a photographic memory. God always wins. Cherry Hill says that. Fantastic. Tamara Anderson, fantastic with the numbers coming up here. Neon Love Machine. That's a cool handle.
Hey, that's cool.
Neon Love Machine. I got the Hot Tub Time Machine.
That's hilarious, man.
Yeah, so great. Hot Tub Time Machine, by the way, was filmed in one of my old towns. I lived in Fernie, British Columbia. So yeah, that's a good one to put on the holidays, right after maybe the Griswold family around the Christmas tree, a little Chevy Chase action. You put on Hot Tub Time Machine, have some fun for Boxing Day. That would be great. So we'll continue it there, everybody. Here we're just wrapping up. right here from the South OC is in the handle, says this is great. Thanks for your encouragement. Tamara Anderson says this. Thanks for your great encouragement, Rattle Trap. Appreciate it. North OC is in the chat here. Wow, that's awesome. Orange County, fantastic. Texas in the chat. Melbourne, Australia. Georgia Post, right on. I also saw UK earlier. Fantastic, everybody. We appreciate it. So we're just wrapping up. We'll be back at it next week. And stay tuned, everybody. Thank you all for being here. YouTube, Rumble, and then also this will be up later on the podcast. Final words before we hang up on the show, my good man?
I mean, I can't believe we're sitting here talking about Thanksgiving. I mean, think how quick the year went by. I mean, technically, we'll be to December the 31st before you know it. I mean, it'll be that quick. So, that's been good and it's been bad in a lot of ways. It's like I try to tell people what makes your year go by slower is to put the phone down a little bit more with some things. Naturally, we are in a world where you have to have the phone for certain things. But someone wrote in the other day to me and they were like, man, I finally put my phone down for a little while and I quit watching certain things that used to take up my time. And they went hiking. They did something. And they were talking about how free they felt. It sounds like a knock on certain people. It does. But then again, there's only one truth. And like I tell people, the only thing you really need to know right now is the 45-47. Follow President Trump. All right. Dan Scavino. But even certain people are still doing the distraction pieces, but you really only need to know the blueprint, and that's really all you need to know. But hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving first off, and then Christmas will be here before we know it. Christmas to me though, it's like I just love food. That's all I'm game for these days. It's like if you got good cookies and good like Southern cooking, keep me on your mind and invite me, things like that. Other than that, I don't, there's nothing that I need anymore. I told my mother this other day, she's talking about Christmas and gifts and stuff. I'm like, I don't even know what I would need. I just want some good food and cookies. Other than that, just keep hanging on. Everything's hitting the waves. Everything's amping up. Obama's talking trash and it's not really him, but still for the target audience, they think it is. And everything's setting the stage and all the Epstein, like you said, they got them interested in it, right? You got to lure them right on in the funnel, right on into the trap and then gotcha. It's just like, it's a beautiful cat mouse game and hate it had to be a game. But when it's all said and done, everybody's going to be, happy, kumbaya, whatever. I suggest some real country music.
There you go.
Not the other, So
there you go.
Yeah. You got to go with it. Yeah, I solo wrote that song, so go ahead and go listen to it. Just get a good chuckle.
100%. It's a great one. We played it 2 weeks ago, and coming up, I'll play it again here. And then remember, everybody, look at 51, Northern State of Canada. Beautiful, cool. Beautiful. Whoever put that together, oh my gosh, that is majestic. I want to have that on a shirt, on a hat, put it on a pin. Fantastic, right? Because it's all leading back to this. You can see this. You see this plan that we've been talking about the entire time coming together. It's absolutely majestic and beautiful. So thank you all for being here on all the chats. And we'll leave it at that. And just like President Trump keeps saying, you're in a freaking golden age. And that's also our place in the cosmos, what he's doing right now. Americans are getting at least $2,000 back as a dividend check. So it's a great time to be alive. All the prices and the gas prices and food prices are coming down. Everything's rocking. Just remember 4 years ago, remember the container ships in the east side, eastern seaboard, western seaboard, the ports are closed, all that kind of stuff. We're like, what are you going to do for Christmas? Car parts, you couldn't get cars, new car sales couldn't come in. Car orders were waiting 2 years out. Oh my gosh, you couldn't work. You couldn't go to your job unless you were jabbed. You were ostracized. And guess what? You don't have that anymore. You are here in an incredible time to be alive, all thanks to the alliance and President Trump leading it, King Trump. So God bless you, brother. Thank you so much, man. And we'll see you all next time. And by the way, everybody, remember on Rumble, if you have anything for Derek, myself, our teams, or other people to share, please put your comments on Rumble, because Rumble will delete the live chat. It will stay up on YouTube, though. So thank you, everybody on YouTube. So just throw it over there. We would really appreciate it. Put a like on Rumble and YouTube to get the show out there. Put a comment down there, even if it's just like one word, like thanks, awesome, great, whatever, got it. And Aronofsky says in the chat, she goes, I've got my Midnight Rider 1 and 2. I'm just waiting for my Bible. She's already ordered your Bible. So that's awesome. Yeah, get them while they're hot before they sell out. Yeah, get that Trinity Pack at rattletrap1776.com. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you later tonight. You and I have a Zoom later, brother. We'll talk then. Cheers, mate.
See you later.
Bye, everyone.
See y'all.
All right, you sovereign souls. Now is the time to protect your money with gold and silver if you already have not. And if you are and you have a chance to do so, I highly encourage to do so even more, because gold and silver will launch the golden age, which Commander-in-Chief Trump has continuously referenced.
The dollar is going down, and it's not a pretty picture, and it's not being sustained by proper policy and proper thinking. This was an opportunity, and maybe an opportunity to show people what's happening with the dollar so that we can do something about it.
Get some if you can. BuddhaLovesGold.com will take you to our partner GoldCo. They have over 6,000 5-star reviews. This is why now is the time to buy gold and silver, because we have thousands of Americans buying gold today. The rising inflation has reduced our purchasing power. Dysfunctional politics don't work for us. The US dollar has lost over 97% of its value since 1913, while the price of gold has increased over 9,000%. Silver has fared well against the dollar too, with the silver price increasing over 4,500% since 1913. It's about wealth protection. Physical precious metals act as a hedge against dips in volatile markets. Go over to BuddhaLovesGold.com. That's www.BUDDHA, BuddhaLovesGold.com. You will download your free silver and gold guide today, and our great people over there at GoldCo will take care of you. That's BuddhaLovesGold.com. You'll see a picture of me right on there, Brad Wozny. And once again, BRICS is the new financial system. Asset-backed precious metals is the way of the future. This is about financial control. Diversifying your assets with gold and silver puts you in control of your wealth at BuddhaLovesGold.com.